socialist here to tell you the truth each and every day, and here are 3 big things you need to know right now. Number one, Florida bracing for a big rain as a subtropical storm rolling in, but remember, there was just one hurricane this season, so not too bad. Number two, a huge red flag for Democrats waving in New Hampshire, where an eye-popping 95% of undecided voters breaking for Republican Senate challenger General Don Bolduc. Number three, now it's finally here. Election Day 2022, and I think it may be the most important election we've had in this country since at least 2020. A lot of important issues are on the ballot this year. The Democrats are hoping you'll forget the awful policies that they've supported in the past. You know, stuff like the COVID lockdowns, defunding the police, and of course, slavery. Let's take a look at the Pennsylvania Senate race, where John Fetterman's lead has shrunk considerably, but his neck has not. Fetterman appeared with Joe Biden and Barack Obama at a rally last Saturday. He campaigned with Biden last month, but Saturday was his first rally with the president. Lots of Democrats are steering clear of Joe. So many wondered why the gaffe-prone Fetterman risked a rally with the really gaffe-prone Joe Biden. And when asked, John Fetterman said, "I like Joe Biden because we speak the same language." Due to his condition, Fetterman had a closed captioning device on stage that displayed questions from the audience, as you know. Democrat aides were on edge all night because of a concern that Joe Biden would just randomly start rambling and reading from it. Biden did address the crowd in Pennsylvania and eventually turned his attention to the war in Ukraine. He asked supporters to join him, Jill and Hunter, in boycotting Russian oil, vodka, bribes, and, of course, prostitutes. Here in Michigan, things are heating up in the governor's race. Both candidates in disagreement over how long kids were out of school. Governor Whitmer says it was 3 months. Tudor Dixon says it was about a year. And most parents said it didn't feel anything longer than about 20 years, just so you know. And in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul denied any involvement in the attempted violence against her Republican opponent, Lee Zeldin, saying, "If I wanted him dead, I'd throw him in a nursing home." However, she didn't help her case when she told supporters, "I will defeat Zeldin even if it kills him." If Zeldin loses the race, it will be remembered as just another night of crime and violence in New York City. If Hochul loses, we, of course, expect things will be mostly peaceful. Oh, and out in California, there is the story of Paul Pelosi, who's back home after being attacked with a hammer. Of course, as soon as I heard the story, I knew something wasn't right. It's not possible. We all know Paul Pelosi only gets hammered before driving home. And as bad as it is being whacked by a hammer, it can't be worse than being married to Nancy Pelosi. And in the words of Joe Biden this week, yikes! Finally, Liz Cheney stumping for Democrats in key swing states. She hopes to give their campaigns a shot in the arm, unlike her dad, who would give them a shot in the face. That's your first look around the 2022 election. A little levity to get you rolling today. And don't forget to vote early and vote often, all right? Vote early and vote often. Okay. How about we get a little more serious? Just for a moment. Let's take a wander around the nation on this election day and hear what's going on out there, all right? We're going to start. Joe Biden had a Freudian slip. Well, at least he was wearing clothes. He had a Freudian slip and admitted there is no climate emergency going on at all. Really, Joe? Do tell. Listen.
In addition, we're making the biggest investment ever to deal with the climate crisis. I know you all know there's no climate problem. I know you know that. So I spent a lot of time in Arizona, New Mexico, California, all through, flew up and down the state with your governor and those wildfires. I know they're just happening.
Yeah, they just happen. I know there's no climate crisis. Thank you, Joe. It's a funny thing because we all know that too. This is why they didn't want him with the prompter at the Fetterman rally. And here's what people in Pennsylvania are saying about John Fetterman, the guy who has a bit of difficulty with a few different areas. Listen to this.
I don't see how Fetterman could be taking credit for anything because he hasn't done anything down here. Fetterman, he dresses in Carhartt clothing, but he has never worked a day in his life that I know of. He's just dressed up like a working man, but he's not really a working man. The people in Braddock know that Fetterman isn't a working type of guy. His Carhartt would never get dirty. I have 20-some properties here that I rehabbed completely with my own money, not using tax dollars. And Fetterman He hasn't done anything to rehab the town except for the Oringer building.
Fetterman's Carhartts never get dirty. I don't think that's a compliment. Yeah, he wears Carhartt. They're never dirty. You know, guys that wear Carhartt, women that wear Carhartt, they're all tattered and frayed, worn out at the elbows after a long time. Carhartt, a beautiful Michigan company. Meanwhile, in Georgia, former Democrat voters are looking for a new direction in the United States Senate. Why is that? Well, here's a clue.
Won't change. I've actually gave Warnock a chance the first time, but I feel like the direction we're going, they're not actually addressing the issues with inflation, with everything going up, a lot of the crime issues. I know my rent skyrocketed this past year. I'm just not hearing anybody address it. Herschel had some good ideas of addressing actually what's wrong with the country and some things that he wants to do.
Yeah, time to do something different. Karine Jean-Pierre says we may not know the election results for days to come. This is not normal. I'm old enough to remember, you're old enough to remember, that when you had election day, you would count the votes, you would post the results, and you'd go home. You didn't stop counting, say, at midnight or 2 in the morning, and say, well, you know, we'll just start back up tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Elections don't take days to count. How is it that before all these computer machines and all these high-tech gadgets and all of this, you know, voting by mass mailing, how come it didn't take days to count then? You've already got the ballots there. You don't even have to wait for them. You don't even have to wait. They're right there, ready to go. Suddenly, we have all this high-tech information, right? All this ability to transfer information all the time in real time, lightning fast, and yet, nothing. Nothing. Anyhow, here's the White House saying we may not know for days. Listen.
It took 2 weeks to call every state. In modern elections, more and more ballots are being cast in early voting and also by mail. And many states don't start counting those ballots until after the polls close on November 8th. So you heard the president say this the other night. He has been very clear on this as well. We may not know all the winners of elections for a few days. It takes time to count all legitimate ballots in a legal and orderly manner. That's how this is supposed to work, and it's important for us.
Yeah, could be days. Days. It's Pennsylvania that bothers me about, and we'll get back to all this. We've got some brand new last day polling. One of those from Michigan showing Tudor Dixon with a 0.3% lead. An Insider Advantage poll showed her with a 0.2% lead. Today, 0.3%. Very close is what it looks like to me. But if this holds true, and I believe that it will, Tudor Dixon will become the next governor of the state of Michigan, the newcomer, because she connected with people with a real message. Quick break here on the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back.